and welcome to another brand new episode here on Football for Kids. Now, today is going to be a little bit different to what we usually do. Normally, we'd be exploring the lives and stories and the journeys of players, clubs, managers, and everything in between. Now, the idea around this episode has come from you wonderful listeners and many of your parents too. Because over the last few years, so many of you have written to me to tell me about your match day adventures. You've told me about the first time you've climbed those huge stadium steps, the smell of chips in the air, scarves spinning around your head, the noise when your team walks out. You've seen unbelievable goals, last-minute winners, penalty shootout drama, and you've even seen your heroes in real life, right there in front of you, not just through a screen. Some of you have stood inside the most historic, iconic stadiums in the world, places where football memories live forever. And I think you'll know it is magical. However, some of you have also told me something else. That sometimes, sitting nearby, there are fans shouting so loudly it feels like your ears might pop, and not always in the most fun, cheering, singing kind of way. It's pretty rare that people are like this, but it does happen, and it can ruin some people's experience. Because while most supporters are roaring with passion and excitement and doing things right, there are moments where a few people shout things that should not be shouted and act in a way that they shouldn't do. Horrible things can be said, things aimed at players, managers, referees, words that should never be a part of football, words that don't belong in the beautiful game or in life in general. And after speaking to some parents, I thought it would be a good idea to do an episode about this. Why does football make people feel so much that sometimes those feelings spill over? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in this episode. Because football isn't just a game of goals and trophies, it's a game of big hearts and big passion, and sometimes even bigger feelings. And lastly, before we really get going with this episode, something that we've spoken about on this show before is racism. Now, you're probably very much aware of what racism is, and I hope you've never had to experience it or witness it, because it never has and it never will be acceptable in football or in life. Racism is where someone is treated unfairly or unkindly just because of the colour of their skin, their background and where they come from. This is something that needs to be kicked out of the game and out of life forever. It doesn't matter how upset someone is feeling, no matter how angry they are, no matter how many decisions haven't gone their way or how little sleep they've had. There is never, ever an acceptable reason to abuse someone with racism. Football is called the beautiful game because of what it represents on and off the pitch, what it represents in every country in the world, and for being something everyone is welcome to play and enjoy, regardless of where they were born, the colour of their skin, or the language that they speak. So, you might be thinking right now, yeah, I've definitely seen people get a little too emotional over football. Maybe you've seen it at your own match on a Saturday morning. A parent on the sideline slowly turning a funny shade of red like a tomato that's been left in the sun for too long. Steam practically puffing out of their ears when the referee gives a decision they don't like. Maybe you've seen a coach get so frustrated at losing a game or an offside flag that for a moment they look like they're about to turn into the Incredible Hulk. Boots stomping, arms waving, face scrunched up like they've just bitten into the sourest lemon in the world. And you might have been sitting in a football stadium and heard someone nearby shout something really horrible. Something aimed at a player, a manager or a referee. Forgetting for that moment that those people are just human beings too. They've got feelings and families just like them. And let me let you into a little secret. Those players, those managers, those linesmen, the referees, everyone on that pitch, they hear so much more than what people realise. So, why does football make some people feel so much? that they sometimes lose control and say things that they probably don't mean to say, or act in a way that they wouldn't normally. To discover that, we need to go on a trip inside the brain. First of all, one of our listeners' mums very kindly shared something with me called The Tree by Sarah Silverman. It's a bit of a psychologist's way to explain how our brains work, especially when we're feeling big emotions, and I thought it was brilliant because it helps us understand what's actually going on inside our heads when someone goes the colour of a tomato or a coach on the sideline turns into the Incredible Hulk. So I'm going to go for a version of that with you in a bit of a football for kids way to make it understandable. Our brains are fascinating things. Inside your head there are lots and lots of different parts, all doing different jobs, really important jobs. It's a bit like a player in a football team. Some parts help you think, some help you feel, and some are there to protect you when things feel intense and a bit scary. Now, to make this easier and a bit more fun, we're going to imagine the brain like a giant tree. And living inside that tree, inside your head, are three very important characters. Now, these three important characters represent different parts of the brain. Each one has a job, but they all react in very different ways when football feelings get big and in the way. Now, right at the top of your tree, aka your brain, sits the owl. Scientists call this part of the brain the prefrontal cortex. But don't worry, we'll stick with the owl. It's much easier to imagine. The owl is the thinking part of the brain. It's that calm voice inside your head that helps you make good choices. Be fair and think before you speak. It's the part that can pause for a moment and say, hang on, what's the best thing to do here? It also helps you understand how other people might feel, like that poor old lino who's just had abuse shouted at him. So let's put the owl into some footballing moments. Imagine your team misses a penalty. The crowd groans, your tummy drops and turns, and your baboon is already bouncing up and down ready to explode. You're thinking, Darren, what are you talking about, baboon? Don't you worry, we'll get on to the baboon in a second. But if the owl gets there first, puts his hand up and says, will someone just listen to me? It might say, that is disappointing. But penalties are really hard. You can't score them all, and even the best players in the world miss them sometimes. But we've got to stay positive and keep going. Or imagine the referee gives an offside against your team, and you really don't agree. The owl in your tree, aka your brain, might step in and say, I really don't like that decision. But the referee is human too, and he can't get it right all the time. Really importantly, the owl in your tree, aka your brain, doesn't stop you feeling upset, it just makes you handle those feelings in a calmer kind of way. So, there's our first character, the owl, or as the scientists call it, the prefrontal cortex. But I mentioned the baboon earlier on, so let's swing down the tree a bit, aka your brain. Scientists call this next part the amygdala. It's a bit of a tongue twister, so we'll call this part of your tree the baboon. And don't worry, there isn't an actual baboon knocking about in your brain. The baboon, or the amygdala, is the big feeling parts of your brain. That is where the excitement happens, the anger, the frustration, the joy. All of those emotions come from here. And all of those emotions can be formed from watching and playing football. The baboon part of your brain is very alive when watching football or playing football. When you feel the referee is against you or making loads of rubbish decisions, that part of your brain, or your tree, is going crazy. The baboon is swinging around doing somersaults, making you feel annoyed, frustrated, and maybe even angry. And this is when some people say something they shouldn't, like screaming abuse at the referee or telling a player they're rubbish. And when people say some of these things and do some of these things, it's because they're talking with their baboon and not their owl. Well, let's move down the tree for one last part, because this is where the lizard lives. The lizard is the survival part of your brain, the oldest bit humans have. Scientists call it the brainstem, but lizard is much easier to imagine. Its job is very simple: to keep you safe if there is danger, and it only really knows 3 reactions: fight, run away, or freeze. So imagine this: you're walking along somewhere in your local park and suddenly a huge lion appears. You wouldn't stop and think, what shall I do here? I could go left, go past Sainsbury's, or if I go right, I could go past Morrison's. Your body would instantly react. Your heart would start racing and pumping. Your muscles would tense up. You would either run, stand still, or get ready to protect yourself. That's your lizard pressing the emergency alarm button to keep you safe. Now, you're probably wondering where I'm going with this. Here's where football can confuse your lizard, or that part of your brain. Imagine you're in a massive stadium. It's the last minute. 50,000 fans erupt. Your team has had a goal scored against them. The fans have gone crazy in the wrong way. The noise is unbelievable. People are really angry and disappointed and gutted, and all of those feelings that sort of thing can make you feel. The lizard in your tree, or your brain, is in a situation where it feels like there's danger. But there is no lion knocking about. It's that roar of noise and those feelings which make your lizard feel like there's danger, which adds even more emotions into the mix. So when your baboon is doing somersaults like a ninja warrior champion, and your feelings and emotions are going crazy, and the lizard senses danger like a lion's just sat down next to you and has started to eat your hot dog, that wise old owl at the top of your tree is struggling to get a word in edgeways. And that is why sometimes people might shout things or do things which they wouldn't normally do. So, hopefully, that helps you understand that you have different parts of your brain that make you feel different things. And that's why sometimes people act in the wrong way. And it's something we can all learn from. So when you see someone in a stadium or at your local football game going the colour of a sun-dried tomato, or a coach or player ready to turn into the Incredible Hulk, it's because they're not letting their owl have the mic. Their baboon is stealing the show and often saying things they really don't mean, or making them act in a way that they don't really want to act like. Football is amazing. Sport is amazing. The drama is amazing, and the big emotions in football are completely normal. Cheering when your team scores, feeling frustrated when they miss, even feeling a bit angry when something goes against you. That just shows you care about the game. There's nothing wrong with those feelings. We're meant to feel like that. But what we do with those feelings, what we do with those emotions, that is what we need to think about. And that is where we need to use our owl. You can feel angry without shouting abuse. You can feel disappointed without being unkind. You are responsible for how you respond with your emotions. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about the Football for Kids podcast. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly, or pitchside, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
This program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles Mackenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.